Oh my goodness. So, Miss Jessamyn Stanley, I'm so happy to see you.
My
um,
goodness. The
to
feeling is so
see you,
mutual.
it's really, really, truly lovely to see you, to know that you're
Literally.
happy and
Hmm.
healthy.
Same.
And I am just looking forward to reconnecting and then we'll also probably talk about some influencer marketing stuff.
Jesse, you have been such a huge part of my career, of my life. Like our paths came together at a very specific time. And I'm just so grateful that we can, I'm so grateful to be in community and to connect. And I'm stoked to be here. I'm honored that you would think of me.
I am very stoked to have you here. Yes, we have such a history. I think that we were in each other's lives at very
Hmm.
pivotal moments.
Hmm.
And I don't know, it's been a really exciting ride
Hmm.
knowing you and
Hmm.
just like going and seeing like your success and if I've had any contribution to that, like that's lucky for me to be able to be part of your journey.
It wouldn't exist without her. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like for real, for real.
I am the biggest fan. I am so, look, a lot of people who are going to
Mhm.
be tuning into this conversation are probably thrilled to hear from you. I feel like beyond having this incredible presence on social, I feel like you just have an incredible presence in the world. And a lot of people have taken notice of that. And you've been written up in a lot of really impressive places. You're very well known in, I don't know, in the influencer space, but that's one of the wonderful things that I love most about you. You fit into this description. People would for sure call you an influencer, but I would never call you a traditional influencer. I feel like
Mhm.
you are doing it on your own terms, in your own way. And can I just give you I mean, I'm probably going to give you lots of compliments throughout this conversation. With all of the notoriety that you've had over the years, I would personally say that the one thing that I've been most impressed with you about is just how grounded and humble you've been throughout the entire process. So, first and foremost, thank you for being one of my first clients ever. And, riding this ride with you and growing in my career and being able to just have so much fun together. So, welcome, Jessamyn. How are you today?
Oh my goodness. I am feeling so very blessed and grateful to be here to connect with you. It has been far too long. And I think that, wow, I mean, it's just a really great time to be doing the work that we're doing, honestly. I think that it's something that is I'm seeing, like, even to your point of like beyond traditional influencer, like getting beyond what it means to share of oneself or to offer the story. We're really, I think, as a society, getting into the why of that. Why do we connect in this way? Why are we so drawn to one another? And it's really just, I think, to feel something real. And I think that that's a really noble community to be a part of. And so I'm grateful to be in community with you. And it's cool to be able to catch up after like it's been a few years, little wee pandemic thrown on top, and so like a lot has changed. It's cool to be able to talk through some of that.
I agree. I agree. So much has changed, and yet I have faith that so much is like still the same in a good way too. So
Mm-hmm.
I also want to, I think a great place to start in terms of like, let's catch everybody up, the handful of people that are maybe listening who aren't as familiar as I
You're
am
like,
with you. Tell
what?
us how, tell us how did you even become an influencer in the first place?
I've always been really interested in social media and in blogging, and I've had, like, since middle school, have been into blogging. And I got on Instagram around the same time that I was really beginning to deepen my yoga practice. And this was back whenever Instagram was really just like a bunch of college students. It was not the editorial center the way that it is now. It was more chill than that. And I was just trying to connect with other yoga practitioners. I wanted to find community outside of my home. And what I found immediately was that I did not get that many people who were like, oh yeah, you love yoga, I love yoga. It was mostly people being like, I didn't know that fat people could do yoga. And I was just like, why do you think fat people can't do yoga? Fat people do all kinds of stuff all the time. And I really realized that there's just a huge visibility issue. Less so now, actually. I think that in the years since since I started posting on Instagram, there's been a huge shift in the sheer volume of people who are sharing their practices and from all different lifestyles, bodies, goals, mindsets. And but back then there were a lot of people who were like, wow, I didn't know fat people could practice yoga. So I was like, I'll show my practice.
And what year are we talking?
So this would have been like sometime between 2012 and 2014. Like, I
think that's important to say, because
yeah,
it's been almost 10 years.
It's been a minute, and a lot has changed, a lot, and continues to change and evolve. And that part of it is really cool to me. Like, I love the change. Oh my God. Like, that's every time there's like some new platform or like a new, like a new style or trend or something, it's just fun. I love the game of all this. It's a good time. Anyway, but yeah, so back then I was just like, I just want to share my practice. And that, I wouldn't say that I was like trying to influence anyone, even though that's what I was doing. I was really just like, I'm living my life and I'm going to show my life. And that has been a really important marker for me in the tone of all of my businesses, is that they have to come from a very authentic mission, a very true, this is not about how far can we take this or what product can we make or like, where can we go? No, what is the message? What is the soul of this? And so that, for me as a motivator, even now, like, I still think of my social platforms as like my journals. Ultimately, when I look at my Instagram, I'm like, I'm looking at a decade-long journal that I've kept of my yoga practice. It's really cool. It's cool that brands are able to be a part of that too. That's really cool. But it's also just cool to be able to connect with other human beings and to be able to tell the truth about myself and to tell my story. So that's where that's how I got into influencership, which I'm so glad is like less of a dirty word now. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a period where people were like, I don't want to be called that.
Do you prefer the word influencer, creator?
Yeah,
Do you have
I definitely identify as a creator. Like, that is a huge, and it feels like it's a mindset, because the creation is just like, it's like, I really feel like the kids on TikTok are the best at this, I think, right now. Like, they're so fucking good at just just erupt, like, just whatever the thing is that you can't get out, just let it out. And that's what creator means to me. And I think that influencer is different. Influencer is stepping into the influence that we all have. Like, my grandmother was like the most influential person. Like, she could get anybody. If she was into something, everybody was doing it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm just carrying her. I'm doing a bad Marvella Baldwin. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're all just carrying influence, and that you put it, and that's what's been so cool too, to see one of the changes, especially through the pandemic, is that now, like, everybody's on social, so that everybody, like, the micro influencership is the most glorious thing to me. It's so magnificent. I'm just like, y'all, you better come through with like 2K followers that are like down for you. You know what I mean? Like they fuck with you and like you, and you are able to, it's all about perspective. I mean, like obviously if you have, like at this stage, so you said earlier that I'm grounded. One of the reasons that I'm grounded is because I'm actually CEO of these businesses. So like I'm actually doing the day-to-day work, and there's a lot that will ground you in that. Yeah.
Yes,
So but I when you're at a scale where you have employees and you have departments and you have all different kinds of products that are being managed, the way that the influence hits is different. The way that you show up to the influences hits a little bit different. But I think it's all the same. It's like just you got 10 followers, you got 10 million followers. It's all the same. Like we're all just out here sharing what we care about, telling our stories. And it's just a cool, fun thing. So yeah, creator and influencer for sure.
I think that a lot of your passions and skills have sort of culminated into what you are doing for a living. I think that you are this incredibly, I hate using the word luck or lucky because it implies like zero amount of work, and you are such a hard worker. But it's incredibly like serendipitous almost that you've been able to cultivate and architect a career that really truly combines all of these wonderful passions of yours. So, you know, you are not only on social media, you are a published author, you've had an incredible podcast of your own. So, you know, you're a writer, you're a public speaker, a professional speaker, you know, in addition to that, I mean, you have a film background. You know, you graduated and studied film in school. So I think that, you know, being at your core a storyteller and somebody who really truly prioritizes the spoken word and just language and the importance and weight of it really shows in your work. I think that it shows in lots of ways. I think that, you know, look, like let's bring it to influencer marketing for a second, right? So in my eyes, the most successful influencers, creators, whatever you want to call them, like they're ones who are cultivating communities so that it is absolutely not a one-way conversation where it's like, I'm Jessamyn, here's what I do. It's not even a two-way conversation where it's like, that's cool, Jessamyn, let's talk about it. It's a community conversation where your community is speaking amongst themselves when you are sleeping and running your other businesses. That is the marker of a real successful creator. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that is such an incredible question and such an incredible way to look at it. And frankly, I really agree with you. I think that the community and really, I mean, I think that the success is such it's like a hard thing because it's so different for everybody. And I think that it just comes down to what you care about in this world and what matters to you at the end of the day. And I think that what ends up mattering to me is the way that we can all be connected to one another and the way that we can learn from one another and the way that we can all heal together and the way that we can heal this planet. And I think that ultimately, like, it's hard whenever the conversation is solely about like what you as an individual are doing, what you care about, what you like and want to share with the world. From a business perspective, I think it's a little bit short-sighted in the way that you can monetize because it really relies on one voice as opposed to being able to expand to many voices, and it just makes the life cycle of the business a little bit shorter. I think that if you are able to understand the real meaning, the real message that for yourself, even like, what is it that you're seeking? Like, I got on social media seeking community. And even in the process of like like finding community, finding so many people like me who were like practicing yoga or doing whatever wellness practices in their town, feeling isolated, and like we can all meet up online, finding those people, yes. But through that, starting the Underbelly, my wellness community, where we start with yoga. It's where you can find all of my yoga classes. You can stream them anywhere on the planet on literally like every streaming platform that exists. The I'm overstating, but you can go to theunderbelly.com and get a free trial.
Everywhere in the world. It should be,
exactly. All the things. But that community really came from like, okay, there are no wellness spaces where you can just be yourself. Like, it's okay to just do your thing. You don't have to make an excuse for what you look like or where you come from. And that, I think, is so much bigger than me. It's bigger than yoga. It's bigger than the internet. It's something that all of us are hungry for. And so, like, thinking about the messaging from that perspective allows for, like, even if you're just going to be like, okay, so like how can we make the most money? Like, thinking about like the message and the community and what are you a part of? Who do you serve? That is the bigger question, I think, has the bigger rewards.
Have you ever thought about just coaching or teaching or educating other people who are coming up behind you and want to have a platform and want to make the impact that you're making? Have you ever thought of doing that?
So I am actually writing a book right now about this concept of believing in yourself and what it means to really see the link between the individual and the community. And I think that is something that, so as a yoga teacher, my books up to this point have sort of followed this like, okay, so here's yoga. You can go to a yoga class. Here's the mat that you should get. That's what everybody yoga, let go of fear, get on the mat, love your body. That's what that book is about. You could go from never having practiced yoga, never heard of yoga, to practicing downward facing dog by the end of it. My second book, My Yoga of Self-Acceptance, is about what happens when you take that practice of finding balance within yourself, when you take that practice off of your yoga mat and into the deeper questions within yourself, when you're talking about self-shame, fat phobia, racism, white privilege, whatever the things are, white guilt, whatever the things are, being able to practice yoga in those parts of yourself in the same way that you do in your physical body. That is something that I'm like, okay, y'all, this is what yoga is. But there's also this understanding of yoga where it's like, you're teaching yourself ultimately. Like, you are teaching yourself, you're making space for calm and peace and balance within yourself so that you can be in community with other people, so that you can show up as whatever the thing is that you are. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a parent, if you're a friend, if you do anything that touches another human life, being able to lead from within yourself as opposed to looking for it outside of yourself. That is also yoga. And so, yeah, I have thought about it. It is something, but I don't think I'm learning from everybody around me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you said that about successful creators, I was like, man, there's so many people that I like deeply admire, who I think are like really getting to the point of this.
Can I put you on the spot and ask you a few of these people?
The first person that I'm thinking of is Nabela Noor. I love her so much, so deeply. I feel like the content, and it's because, you know, we all are showing ourselves to the world, and she is showing many vulnerable parts of herself. And I think that, you know, it's just to bear witness to that and to be able to also be a creator and a human being and to be able to learn from that just feels like a gift to me. And I think that the way that she has merged philanthropy and commerce is really innovative, and I think is just something that I'm grateful to be in community and grateful to be able to learn from her. And there are a lot of, I could go on, so many people that I just think are incredible. But one of the things with that too is being able to see that like the product, there's multiple product streams, like multiple revenue streams that are anchored by products and anchored by individual brands that are not just like, I think that that is so crucial, and that's one of the things that I really learned from her. And also the incorporation of philanthropy and the understanding that we're all part of a village somewhere. We got to take care of ourselves. We got to take care of each other.
So let's talk about the business side of it and those multiple revenue streams a bit. I mean, it's really refreshing that, you know, it seems like all of your endeavors have a purpose, are rooted in all of your beliefs about, you know, the world and kind of like what you want to put out there. And from that, you have so successfully and very smartly identified quite a few different revenue streams for yourself. You know, again, I'll use the word successful. And I agree with you. Everyone defines success in different ways, but inevitably it just means that you're doing something right. Something right. Somebody, right?
Totally.
So if I can, I would say that, you know, you've successfully navigated that and will continue to learn and evolve and grow, of course, but also as all business people do. I think that it's a really impactful, powerful thing, a really powerful thing that you've been able to parlay your positioning on social media into multiple businesses and into, you know, a profession with longevity, with, you know, people that now work with you, for you. It's an incredible thing that you've created, and there is no way to overstate that. I mean, I guess my question that I'd love to dig into is really about those businesses. I'd love to learn from you the different revenue streams that you've explored for yourself, and just a little bit specifically, which have been most successful for you.
Oh my goodness. Wow, this is a great question. Okay, let's see. Well, okay, so the biggest thing for me has definitely been solidifying all of the individual brands, but that has come with time. And I think that they've all been successful, but I think that there are some that have longevity in a different way. And I would probably start with the Underbelly as being the brand that has I'm just so proud of and grateful for and learn from every day. Oh my goodness. But part of what works really well with that is that the product is, it does not require that I physically do it all the time. Like, I do not need to physically be shooting new content for the Underbelly all the time. And so that means that that product can really work itself in a way that some of the other products can't in the same way. And that product is an incredible community builder. The community on Facebook, on the app, on Instagram, the number of people that meet each other through the Underbelly that are practicing together across continents, like that kind of thing is like, it's speaking to something bigger than yoga, bigger than the internet. It's like, it's making lasting connections that will go. And that when we're talking about success, that's what really matters for me.
Well, you're putting like-minded people together who may have never been in contact with each other otherwise.
Literally never.
Yes.
And people are inspired through their practices to make incredible shifts in their life, incredible changes. And I think that it's something that I definitely wasn't thinking about when we started. Like it was not like I wasn't thinking like, wow, maybe this will happen. It's been like, wow, that's why we're here. But that revenue stream, I think, is the one that has longevity in a different way because it really does not require me, Jessamyn Stanley, at all. Like, I think that, and we're already expanding into new wellness modalities, new instructors, like growing it beyond where it started, which really in the beginning, I was like, I just want to make sure that my yoga classes are somewhere that anyone could find them day or night. Like, because I can't, one of my other revenue streams is teaching live yoga classes, which now I do less and less. But I want to do more and more as it happens. There were years where I taught classes all over the world constantly. Like I was away from home most days of the month. And that I think is a great way to start. So when you're like building new revenue streams, I think that it is great in-person events, but I think that there is a life cycle to that, a very clear life cycle. And so it's important I'm noticing a lot of people doing online courses in general, but having some sort of digital class of some sort, and everyone has something that like could be taught to someone, turning it into a course that can be easily accessed and subscribed to. I think subscriptions are particularly good as opposed to a one-time payment because it's the gift that keeps on giving for everyone. I think that is a really great way to get going. But if it's only in person, if you have to physically do it, it's just harder.
And so, what are your thoughts on creating the underbelly where it was initially just you, being the face of it and now expanding to other instructors? Do you feel like you're excited about that, or are you a little like a little hesitant about like relinquishing control and having it just evolve and change?
I have so many feelings about it because I definitely am the mother hen who sits very close to everything, and I'm like, I think that the message of the underbelly is so important, and so that feels very close to me. But at the exact same time, there is no way that we are really going to spread our wings the way that we need to if I am the person that everyone has to come to every day. And also, wellness as a concept is so much bigger than Jessamyn Stanley and so much bigger than how I understand wellness. And I think that for us to really make space for our collective healing, there's a need for more voices and for a broad community. And I think that I think that's kind of the beauty of being founder is that the message is, I know the message, we got the message, but there is also that part of me that has to be like, you can't do everything, Jessamyn. It's got to be, like there's definitely that.
It's hard.
Sure. It is
it's
very hard.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you have a very clear vision. You're passionate about it. You put blood, sweat, and tears into creating it.
Literally. But literally, like, how am I? So I got projects coming down the pipe, Jessie, that for real, like, so I was having an emotional moment the other day about, like, wow, like, I'm not going to be teaching all the time anymore, like, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, how are you going to develop these other projects and be doing that at the same time? Like the kind of storytelling that needs to happen and the kind of opportunities that my platforms have allowed me to have are so far beyond what I'm currently doing that it's like there's this need that it's been so weird. Like, you use the word empire, and like I think sometimes people use it to show off or be like, yeah, I'm building an empire, but I've just been like, I'm just over here with my little hammer, like doing my thing, like I'm digging. And then like as over time, like people come over, you are one of these people come over, you're like, I got a shovel, we can build some things, what do you want to do? And then it's like years later, I'm looking up and I'm like, oh shit, I built an empire. Okay, wait a minute, there's a lot going on back here. And so now I'm at this place of like my day to day is HR training and oh my goodness, benefit packages and oh my goodness, so much corporate infrastructure that I really, it's beyond being able to teach all the time. And I think that I love that. I love it so much because that means that the other people who come and who bless us they can love it that much too. And that's the kind of the space that I sit in about it.
And so how do you find great partners? How do you find great people to work with you and rock with you while you're doing what you're doing?
The universe has been so generous with me. Many people that I have worked with have come to me organically. You came to me organically. My manager came to me organically. Every team, my current agents came organically. And so I have been, to your point earlier about luck, I feel you about like you say that something's lucky and it's like, oh, it makes it seem like, well, you didn't really work for that. And I'm like, there was a little bit of luck, and luck is a lot of things. It's many things combined, but there's definitely been, I think, magic at play for me. And that has been a key component. But another thing that I have learned, so one thing that I see a lot of people do is fear around hiring, especially as you're like expanding. And I was very fearful of hiring. I felt like, especially as you're scaling multiple businesses at the same time, it's like, do I really have the bandwidth to take on these team members? And it's gotten to a place where I feel like if we can find the money, we need to hire somebody. We need to get somebody in here because they can shine, they can do what they are meant to do. And we can all grow as a result. And that process of finding people has been like the most amazing part of all of this. Like, so there's this whole period of organic people coming toward, but now we're in this period of like, okay, so it's mostly here's a job that somebody should have been doing a long time ago that somebody else has been doing in addition to their job. And now we're going to turn it into its own job and we can reach out. And I have done we typically use like LinkedIn and honestly, the My Name is Jessamyn social channel to source talent. And it has been incredible because the people who are in our communities are incredible human beings who are incredibly talented. And the place that this has been actually, so that's on the side of the Underbelly and Joss Inc., which is the company that holds all of Jessamyn Stanley's work. So teaching, writing, speaking, etc. But my other company, We Go High, which is a cannabis justice advocacy group. We are based out of North Carolina, but advocate for cannabis justice all over the country and really all over the world. But we focus on the United States and really specifically on North Carolina. We Go High has been a labor of love. It was something that was started by my creative partner and I, literally just out of this needs to exist. There needs to be a space where people are not ashamed of being cannabis users. And it's been just like, it was a side hustle for us. Like we'll do it as we have time. And over time, so many people have come to us organically who they follow We Go High on Instagram. They do whatever. And they're like, this is what I do in my day job. I am 100% as passionate about this as you are. And I am willing to give whatever extra time I have. And it's people who are so talented. Their day jobs are doing all kinds of things that I'm like, oh, okay. So you spend, and it's like, we're all doing incredible things, but there's also this need to build community, period, regardless of whether or not money is involved. Build community, lift up the voices of people who are not being heard, and make space for other people to get free. And ultimately, that's really what all of my brands are about, is making space for other people to get free and to be free within themselves so that they can be free in the world. And I think that if the message is there, then the people who hear that message will be there. And actually, I think everybody knows this. Like, I feel like it's like if you do something dope, there will be people who are right there ready to be a part of that with you.
I would like to think that everybody knows that. I think that there are a lot of influencers out there, creators, whatever term you want to use, who haven't quite gotten the traction that you've gotten, Jessamyn,
Sure.
and some of them are doing incredible things and are brilliant minds. And, you could attribute it to that it's a very oversaturated industry now, or, or maybe they just didn't have the luck, or in your words, magic, which I prefer that word to luck for sure, any day. And so I have a question for you. So when we were working together for years, predominantly my job for you was to cultivate and negotiate and facilitate your brand partnerships. That was a lot of what our work was together. It was fun when we got to do the other things.
Yeah, totally.
But predominantly that was my role, right? And look, I mean, you know this, you're not the easiest sell all the time when it comes to working
that is
with
the
brands,
most beautiful
right?
way to say that.
I'll keep it real. Like, I mean, and this isn't anything new. Like you know this. I mean, when it comes to the branding space, theoretically, you need to be brand safe, whatever the hell that means. You need to have, I don't know, there's no better way of saying it. You need to be brand safe in so many different scenarios. And I know why I think that you are magical. I'm going to keep using that word. And I know why your community thinks you are and how incredibly engaged they are. But the fact that you talked about cannabis and were undressed and coined yourself a fat yogi really turned some people off, regardless of how many other things you had going for you. And so our journey in terms of brand partnerships together, you were never necessarily a volume booker. Like you were never going to book, 5 campaigns in a week, but you were always one of my top performing clients, because what happened is that when you were really right for a brand partnership, like you were their ambassador, you were their only one, and they were willing to pay a pretty penny to invest in the partnership simply because there was nobody else to even take that spot. Like you were just that right for it. So my question for you is, how have you navigated through the years in terms of, oh gosh, is it okay to put this out there? Should I not? Should I do it? Like, let's be real about it. There has to have been moments
where huge ones. Yes.
You've questioned it. And I'm curious how you've navigated that.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. So here's the thing of it. I have never felt that brand partnerships should be the centerpiece of my revenue stream structure. Because it is so tenuous and really has a lot to do with likability. And I have never wanted to focus on being liked. And so even from the beginning, because my brand has always been irreverent and very, I think, edgy. And it pushes at a lot of deep set beliefs that people have about health and wellness and self-worth. I just have never felt that is where my focus needs to be, that my focus really has to be on authenticity and telling the truth. But even with that, there are lines. And so for years, I never talked about cannabis at all. And it got to a place where I felt like I wasn't telling the truth in interviews when people would be like, tell me about your wellness practices. And I'm talking about yoga. And I'm like, oh, so I'm just like not going to talk about cannabis at all. And it's maybe more important than yoga. Okay, that's great to know. Also, my silence in this makes me complicit in the war on drugs. So that's cool. Also, I have this platform that what's the point of it if I'm not going to use it? Like, what's the point? And so for me, it's always been about like, why have this platform? What's the point of having someone's attention? What's the point of influencership? Point is to say something that matters. And so I had a whole process around deciding when I was going to talk about being a cannabis user, when I was going to come out, And that was, it was literally, I was waiting for certain contracts to end that had language in them around what I was allowed to say and what I was not allowed to say. And when I did it, it was very much like I'm leaping off of a cliff. And I wanted to do it also. This was before the Underbelly launched. It was before a lot of things. It was before Dear Jessamyn. It was before Yoke came out. All of these things were still, it was still under my control. There were not as many voices in the room. I could still make the call. And that was why I did it then, because I knew that if I didn't do it then, I wouldn't be able to do it later. Because there are a lot of people who literally are exactly like me who use cannabis and would never talk about it because of the impact that it could have on them. And there's some things that, like, I'm fat, I'm Black, I'm queer. These are not really things, like, they're, I think, now trendy selling points to brands, but like they're just my truth. So it's not really like a thing to talk about. But cannabis is something that I could have definitely kept to myself. But realizing that it's bigger than this moment. It's bigger than a contract. And that has meant that I've had to literally, the number of brands that there's had to be like a direct conversation about, like, this is something that Jessamyn believes. This is something, and that knowing that we're pushing the envelope in that way feels very important to me, because it's not just about right now. We're expanding the industry. We're making space for other people to be free.
And I've witnessed that, Jess. And like I can speak to the number of people that I know working in the influencer marketing industry that those conversations are not happening, but they absolutely were happening in your orbit, which are just pushing people to broaden their minds a bit. And it's really commendable that you, not even like you have the audacity to do that, but your team was doing that because
yes.
We're the first line of defense. So I think that if, for any influencers watching, how important it is to have your team absolutely be in alignment with some really core values in terms of your business, because they could have shut that conversation down immediately simply because the conversation's never been had previously. But doors were opened and opportunities were cultivated simply because you had a team who was willing to go there with you. And that's a really wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, the team really cannot be understated. There's no way. Like, it's been so interesting because I think it happens significantly less now, but certainly in the beginning of the Underbelly, people would like write in and be like, hey, Jessamyn, so blah, 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 like thinking that like I'm doing everything, I guess, or that like I'm like, there are so many people who are making this happen, who are living their truth, who are doing, and that I think is probably my biggest, I don't even know if it's a tip, it's an advice that I am trying to still follow, which is like, know the things that you are not good at and find people who are good at that thing, like they are meant to do that thing. Because the level of compassionate negotiation that is required in order to bridge these divides, in order to have these conversations, in order to say the thing that is hard to say, that is something that like, I'm literally not doing it. I'm asking someone else to do it on my behalf. And it is something that I think I talk about noble. And I mean, everybody has their way of doing it. And I just think I would be nowhere without that, truly.
And so I'd love for you to give a little bit of insight into just how you work in your mind. Every influencer creator is going to be different, but I'd love to hear, like, for brands that are like, I would love to work with Jessamyn and like, I want to create something really successful together. Like, what advice would you give to brands or agencies, potential business partners that want to work with you?
Really consider the person who is going to receive your message. Really think about not just who you think the consumer is, but really like what is happening in their life, what feels true to them. Because then I think it makes it easier to really take the perspectives of, yes, influencers, but also just to really see a bigger picture of what whatever the brand messaging is going to be for a campaign. Because I think that sometimes in the pursuit of trends and buzzworthiness, there is especially as diversity stays trending, there's like a one-dimensional nature that can happen with the messaging where it doesn't feel authentic to the consumer, and it doesn't even necessarily feel authentic to the influencer or to the creator. And so it doesn't have the intended result, you don't meet your goals in the same way that you would. Yeah, it doesn't have the impact. So I think that really thinking about like, who is going to receive this message? What do they need in their life? What are we trying to say? That I just think it's missing sometimes. And it's because we're all learning and figuring out how to communicate with each other. But it does make a really big difference in the work. And I think that it's important to take a chance on people and on brands that are different, that are maybe something that you're like, does this make me feel uncomfortable? I'm not sure what's going on. This is kind of weird. They're into that thing. They're into that thing. They're probably into something that your consumer that you're trying to understand that they're into. So if it's weird, that probably means it's of the moment. And so it would behoove you to lean into the weird, get into whatever, like, the less you understand it, the better it probably is going to be for your profit margin. So like, if you just take a leap, be on the cutting edge, don't chase the cutting edge. Like, I think that now we're seeing there's so many things that people are talking about now that like 5 years ago, even you would have had no idea that anyone was going to be talking about. And it really, especially in influencership, is just coming down to like trusting people, trust their message, trust what they're saying. Even if you don't get it, it's cool.
And so your favorite brand partnership to this day, what was it? Name names or don't, that's okay. But like, why do you think why was it your favorite?
I've had a few different partnerships that I've loved. I think that my favorite overall is my ongoing relationship with Adidas. I have been blessed to be a part of a number of their global campaigns and a number going into 2022 as well. And we just have a lot in the works for the next couple of years. And it feels like the kind of, to your point of ambassadorship, that level of connection with a message and telling a story over a long period of time, not just like a one and done type of thing, but not even just like a year and done type of thing, but something where you are really telling a larger story and connecting to the community in a more substantial way. That kind of project is really exciting to me. But I've been blessed to work with a lot of brands that I really admire, that I think are super cool, and that I am proud now having a team in place that can really support all of my endeavors. It's just exciting to get to work with brands that I really fuck with and that I think that everybody should know about. And it's fun to share influence.
Well, it's so cool to hear that, that Adidas partnership is going strong. I remember getting it. I remember negotiating it and the promise and the potential that it had. But to give them so much credit, I knew from the beginning, just by the tone and the way in which they were approaching that partnership, that it had all the makings of being successful and a true partnership. And I think that beyond the longevity, beyond the money, all of that was fantastic. But beyond all of it, it was the tone that was being set and the opportunity that they were presenting and that they were excited about. And it was so in alignment with your goals and what you wanted to put out there and how you wanted to interact with a brand. Nonetheless, Like I said, the brands that you work with, it's such they're no brainer. Like it makes so much sense that you would be partnering with them. So I love to hear that you're still partnering with them. I think my last question for today, I'm so sad that we're out of time, but my last question that I'd love to ask you is, if you could close your eyes, if you could wish for one thing in 2022, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. Grace and patience. It's not one thing, it's technically two things, but to have the grace to wear everything, to wear the hats, to wear and carry the weight, to carry it with grace, and patience with myself and with the with my team, with the world. Patience that with time all is coming, and that the change is good, and that it's okay to not know. The not knowing is important.
It brings like tears to my eyes, to be honest with you. If I'm being super candid, it's like you make the influencer industry so much better. You make the world better.
I love it. I'm telling you, I love it. I went through a period of being like, oh my God, I cannot with this. Oh my God. I had years where I was just like, I'm going to delete everything. I cannot. Oh my God, what maybe I could do? I don't know. And now I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, I feel like the less it's a competition, and like, yes, obviously there's metrics and like, yeah, there's a scoreboard and like we're all on it, but it's very like Ready Player One. Like we're all just out here playing the game. Like it's fun. And I'm excited to be in the game.
Dude, it's like anything in life. Like it's how you do it. It's how you approach it. Everybody
Exactly.
can work on the same thing and do it entirely differently, but like It's a creative outlet. It's an opportunity to reach people, cultivate community, get your ideas out there in the world. I mean, if there's a better job in the world, I don't know what it is. So
I know, I feel you. Same,
yeah,
literally.
I'm so grateful that you could come on today, have this conversation. Like I told you, selfishly, I just wanted to reconnect and feel you. And I just am so appreciative that you could join us today. So if anyone listening wants to get in touch, we will drop all of her social links in the description, in the show notes of this podcast episode. Jessamyn, it's been a pleasure.
Jessie, you are a gem. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.